This is the 18th season of Bass Talk Live. With your host, Matt Pangrath. BTL is brought to you by Lowrance, Bass Cat Boats, AFCO, Ducket Fishing, Strike King Lures, Sunline, Big Bite Baits, Spro, X-Zone Lures, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, and Pro Guide Batteries.
PTL, coming at you!
Good morning and welcome to Bass Talk Live. It is Wednesday, February 16th, and today we're going to talk about bass fishing. Got a great show today. Probably one of the hottest anglers going. Well, I don't have to say probably. He is one of the hottest anglers going right now in the world. And that would be none other than Michael Neal of Tennessee. Michael is actually driving through Alabama right now on his way to the second BPT stop or stage of the season down on Lake Fork, where it is going to probably be an absolute slugfest depending on the weather. But we got Michael Neal on via the Sunline hotline in the first portion of the show. He is going to, I guess, reminisce, look back on his win earlier this year on the Pro Circuit stop on Sam Rayburn, where there was a day canceled because of weather. He was leading after 2 days on a combination of baits. The weight zeroed going into the top 10 on the final day, and then he went out and absolutely crushed a 26-pound bag to get a MLF Pro Circuit win on Rayburn. To kick things off in the 2022 season over there on the Pro Circuit, after in August he closed out the 2021 season by lifting the Angler of the Year trophy. And then in between there, he won the last BPT stop on Lake St. Clair with over 168 pounds of smallmouth bass. So just an absolute incredible run that Michael Neal has been on over the past 6 months. And I went back and I was doing some stats, doing a little research on it. And he had a very similar run now, albeit on a lower level at the BFL, but back in 2011 that kind of jump-started his career, kick-started it. He then went on to the FLW Tour in 2012 and really never looked back with incredible consistency. So we're going to get Michael Neal on to talk today. I'm also want to pick his brain. You know, I'm a big fan of the dink and dunk, the finesse tactics, the spinning rod, whatever you want to call it. And that played a big role, although not on the final day, but that played a big role in his win on Sam Rayburn just a couple weeks ago. So we'll get Michael Neal on in the second half. I wanted to go through a couple things in the first segment. Man, last night was a first for me. I got to sit basically courtside. I was actually in the third row of the OU Texas basketball game. Now, if you've listened to the show, you follow the show, you know that I am not a huge basketball fan. Most of my basketball experience is through Mark Jeffries, who is actually at a basketball tournament this morning talking about it, and I got an invitation from Drunkwood, is what he goes by on his Instagram, John King, but he's a dude out of Louisville who listens to the show. I've talked to him on social media a lot. He sent me a message a couple months ago. He's like, I got a buddy who is one of the assistant coaches for OU. Grew up with him, kind of known him for a long time, always watch where he coaches, and I wanted to go to one of his games this year, so Drunkwood flew in, had an extra ticket, invited me to sit next to him, sat in the third row of the OU Texas game. Unfortunately, OU lost in overtime, but just had an absolutely great time. And I talked to Mark this morning, and I said, there's a little bit more physicality than I thought there was than you see on TV, and a lot of hustle, so that was really cool. Drunkwood does all of the, or did, I don't know if he's doing them this year, but last year he did all of the kind of wooden plaque trophies for each stop of the NPFL, where he did like a woodworking thing with like a cutout of the lake and the state and just really cool stuff. Does a lot with like old bourbon barrels, made to order custom woodworking stuff, which is near and dear to my heart. I bought my first boat when I was 14 years old, and we never really used it because we could never figure out the idle, and the trolling motor was from the 1980s. I think it was a 1979 Ranger that I bought, but I bought it with woodworking money, doing stuff on the scroll saw. So big shout out to Drunkwood, to John. Had a great time last night. Thanks for the invite, and really enjoyed that game. Next, in the second half, in the end of the show, now this is something that I just kind of thought of right at the end, was the Olympics. And we haven't talked a lot about it, and it kind of seems like the Olympics are something that I haven't really gotten into this year a lot. Now, I started watching a little bit, watched the snowboard, keeping up with what's going on with the hockey. Crushing loss for Team USA hockey. But the Olympics are going on, and every time the Olympics go on, you kind of think of fishing. There's like new events that come in every year. And it reminded me that we do have a USA bass team. And they have tournaments all year. I know they've won the gold medal. I think they've been to like South Africa, maybe Mexico, but there's a bunch of crazy good anglers on that team. Like I'm looking at it now, like Scott Martin, Scott Canterbury, Jacob Wheeler, Fritz from Bannis, Watson, Dudley, Mark Rose. They wear the red, white, and blue, the jumping red, white, and blue bass. And just looking at the upcoming events for the USA bass team, there is a Black Bass World Championship coming up later this year on Lake Murray. So I said, who on this list could I maybe get a hold of before the Olympics are over to jump on? So last minute, I got a hold of JMFW, James Watson Worldwide, and he's going to jump on and talk a little bit about USA Bassin and just a little bit about that program and how it works. We have more tournament action, too, and we're going to get to Michael Neal. I see you just logged on. We got an audio only of Michael Neal. Like I said, he's driving currently to the next BPT stop. But, dude, this could be a really, really impressive derby coming up for the second stop of the Bassmaster Elite Series on the Harris chain. And, I mean, I know on Bassmaster.com, it's kind of their job to, like, pump things up and make it, this is going to be super exciting. But I think you look at the full moon, you look at the warming trend after a series of cold fronts over the last kind of 3 weeks that have really pushed back a lot of the massive spawning action in Florida. You look at the health of the Harris chain now with the Elite Series anglers going there. You look at the massive amount of water that these anglers can be distributed in a number of lakes that can be productive on that Harris chain. So there will be not much pressure with only 90-plus guys on it. And let me just read a little bit of what John Cox said in one of the articles on Bassmaster. This is the article. It said, despite the pause, the Harris chain fish know it's time to do their business, so they... So the shoreward rush may end up looking like a Black Friday doorbuster stampede. Instead of tricking them, you could get these. Instead of them trickling in, you could get these massive waves, Cox said. And that is John Cox, who knows a thing or two about catching a bass in Florida. He said, so someone could just sit in one place and crush them. It might be a perfect storm where they're moving in all the lakes and everybody jacks them. I think the winning total will be close to 90 or 100 pounds, Cox said. To make the top 10, it could easily be 20 pounds a day. So I think we're going to see some big things over the next couple days on the Elite Series, and then we'll talk to Michael Neal about what he thinks we will see on Lake Fork. So let's bring Michael Neal in now. Michael, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
How's it going?
Oh, pretty good. Just like you said, hitting the road again. Got a 12-hour drive to Fork, and another coming.
We're getting a bad signal right now. If you find a good signal, okay, we got you back. You there?
I should be. Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Okay, you should be good. Hopefully that. Oh, all right, you're good. So, driving to Fork after the first stop of the year. What is that? About a 15-hour drive for you from Tennessee?
Oh, it's right at 12. It's not too terribly bad.
Okay. I wanted to get you on to kind of go back, and one of the things that kind of stinks when you have tournaments on top of tournaments on top of tournaments before it gets too far removed. But I wanted to go back and revisit your win on the pro circuit earlier this year on Sam Rayburn, and kind of a really good way to kick the season off. We talk about how guys start their Angler of the Year runs. You won the Angler of the Year last year, and you're leading it again after the first event, but just a really good way to kick off the year on a stingy Sam Rayburn that was feeling the effects of some adverse weather.
Yeah, and I mean, I was really kind of worried going into this year how it was going to start and how I could keep the momentum going from the 21 season. Just to go down there and get a good finish would have been really important, but to come out there with a win, that was really special. I mean, that, like you said, the FLW Tour was where I started my pro career, and I love the Bass Pro Tour. I love the format, catch all you can, but to come back and win a 5-fish tournament on the trail that I started my career, that was really special.
And you've been close to winning it before in the 5-fish, but this was a little bit different last year. There was actually a day that was canceled because of weather, but you had 18 pounds on the first day. You had 15 on the there's a day canceled, and then 15 to make the final day. But then going into that final day, you had the lead and the weights were zeroed, which is kind of new for the pro circuit this year. What were kind of your thoughts after leading the tournament and then having to start over? And do you think it gave you an advantage, the fact that on the BPT for the last 4 years, you're very comfortable with starting the day with everybody even and having it kind of be a one-day shootout to move on?
I figured it was going to take a big bag to win. I think we just had one 20-pound bag weighed in the first 2 days with everybody fishing, but I felt like it was going to take a good bag, but I didn't think it would take. I didn't think anybody would catch what I caught that day. I didn't think I had a shot at that. I thought somewhere in that 18 to 21, 22 pounds would be what would win, and it was just really a surprise. But to go out there with the mindset of just trying to get 5 big bites was a little bit different. But you know, I caught all my fish that final day on different jerk baits, depending on the depth. Some of them were on a Spro mixed stick. Some of them were on one that would go a little shallower. Some of them were on some that I actually tweaked to make it sink. But my first bite was like a 6-pounder, and it jumps, comes off. And at that point, I knew what I was going to do the rest of the day. And I knew that I had figured out how to get those bigger bites. And if you look at my tournaments over my whole career, it's like I always start kind of slow, and then by the end of the tournament, I've got it way more figured out than I did after practice. So I was really comfortable going into that final day.
One of the unique things about that tournament was it seemed like it changed on a daily basis because you were coming off the back end of a cold front, and you had to catch them differently every single day of that event, didn't you?
Yeah, so in practice, the only way I could get bit was in the drains. They call them drains in Texas. You may call them ditches or whatever. So in those, 18 to 25 feet of water was where I was getting my bites. The only thing I could really get on the bite was a drop shot. And, I was using my forward-facing sonar to know I was making the exact right cast and getting it in front of a fish all the time. But the first day I'll say it, I got completely lucky. I didn't expect it. I thought I could catch maybe 12 pounds a day with that drop shot technique. I caught a 7-pounder and a 5-pounder. And I had 18 pounds. So, my other ones were not very good fish, just good solid keepers. But towards the end of the day, that day, it was like all the fish left out in the centers of those drains out deeper. And it didn't really click where they went. I assumed that most of the time when you catch fish on a place, if they're going to go anywhere, they're going to go a little bit deeper. Unless you've got a big warming trend and the water's getting really warm, then they might slide up shallower as the water heats up. But it wasn't doing that in the tournament. So then day 2, I started out with the same deal. They put a camera in my boat, and I think I had one when they took the camera out like 4 hours into the tournament. I caught it out deeper. Now I wound up just sticking with that drop shot, just trying to get a check and finish out a limit, and I did. I had like 9 pounds at like 2 o'clock. Luckily, I had a later check-in, and I figured out that those fish had actually left the centers and the bottoms of those drains and went to the backs of them where they flattened out or up on the sides on some little isolated piece of cover.
What made you make that move? Because that's what separates a good angler from a great angler, in my opinion, are what I call micro adjustments. You kind of stay in that same area, but you figure out where they go. Is that a time on the water and an experience deal where you just are listening to your intuition and figuring out where those fish go from where they were just hours before?
Yeah, I mean, that was something that I really struggled with early in my career. Is once I had a pattern going, that's what I was going to do. I was going to do or die with it. I could have seen myself, even 5 years ago, sticking it out with a drop shot, not even making the top 10, costing myself a win. But, I mean, I just kept in one area. I knew one certain ditch had more fish in it than anywhere else that I knew on the lake. And it was a big ditch that just funneled into a big spawning flat. And I just kept meandering around basically with my forward facing sonar, the active target, and finally started seeing some fish again. I mean, it was like absolutely barren for a long time out there in the deeper water. There was nothing to be found, maybe an occasional white bass or a school of crappie and a piece of standing timber. But as far as seeing bass, it was just a total ghost town. So I started out deeper, tried that, and then I thought, well, they just have one other option, and that was to move up shallow. And I tried that and started seeing fish again.
Why do you think so many anglers, tournament anglers, struggle with making adjustments later on in a tournament where they've had success earlier? It seems like you just see a lot of guys that, and the term that you hear a lot is try to grind it out. Why do you think that is so hard for us as bass anglers to ditch what we'd been catching them on and make a move when things aren't working out?
I think it's just the fear of the uncertainty, the unknown. I feel like a lot of times that I'll get in a rut, like I'm throwing this certain bait. I got some bites on it earlier. I know they'll bite it, but then there's always something better. And that always something better sometimes will bite you, but you've got to be able to read the conditions and understand that these fish are changing, and they're changing most of the time because of the bait. So wherever the bait's going is where the fish are going to go, and just figuring out what they're feeding on, how to mimic that in certain depth conditions or depths of the water column, and just being able to adapt. I mean, that's something that, like I said, I struggled with for a long time. But these last couple of years, I just feel like when my gut tells me to go make a move, I don't even hesitate. I just immediately go do it, whatever it is.
Do you think that's what's separating guys right now, like the Lees, Wheelers, Fighters, Podix, yourself, where the decision making is flowing, and when you see guys go on streaks like the streaks that you're on now, like the streak you went on in 2011 that we're going to talk about a little bit later on, you don't even realize how many decisions you're making because it's just almost subconscious?
I think it is, and I think some of it too is the willingness to go do something that's not by the book what you're supposed to be doing at the time, even though you might just get one or two bites. For instance, at Murray last year, it was the herring spawn. Well, everything should have been caught on the herring spawn, and I wound up catching a lot of my fish way up in the river. And that's something that I never would have done. I never would have made that decision before.
You mentioned that the quote typical thing, the thing that they should be doing, and you mentioned you caught a lot of your fish on the first day on a drop shot. We just watched the BPT where Jarrett Lintner was on a shallow fishery in Louisiana and relied on a power shot, a drop shot, to smoke everybody in the opening rounds. We've seen on the Elite Series, we saw what Polinick did on Santee Cooper with a drop shot. We've even seen a little bit of it on just some big power southern fisheries. Do you think that's a bait that a lot more people are realizing is more versatile and doesn't just belong in a specific box that we've seen it for the past 10 years?
Yeah, I think so, and I just attribute that to the amount of pressure that these fisheries get. I mean, you even look at Caney Lake. Jacob Wheeler won the round on a jerkbait. Jordan Lee finished second, caught some big ones on a Ned rig. I mean, it's not just limited to the drop shot, but anything that you're fishing that's one of those heavily pressured areas, you've got to do something a little bit different than the next guy. And that may be line size, that may be a totally different color, totally different bait, or whatever. But I've always had that mentality too. Even when I first started fishing the 5-fish format, I was just trying to generate as many bites as I could and weed through. And that's something that I think more and more people are starting to realize now, if you're going to pick up a spinning rod, yeah, you're going to catch 3 times as many fish as you would with a jig, but you're going to get some of those good bites through the day too.
Kind of along those lines on those baits, there were kind of some, before these last 3 or 4 years, there were kind of some what I would call like jerkbait savants. You would have Kevin, who would use jerkbaits in non-traditional areas. I remember when he was kind of jerking around the lily pads there in Mississippi a few years ago. Obviously, Hank Cherry, one of those guys who throws them all the time. Kelly J, known as that. But recently, over the last couple years, we've seen the jerkbait become a 12-month, out of the year, every scenario bait that is almost a must-have, it seems, on the front deck. Very influential in your win on Rayburn. Do you think the forward-facing sonar is kind of the catalyst for why we've seen such a resurgence in jerkbaits in non-traditional settings?
Yeah, I think so, and I think it's because most of them out there are suspending, or you can tweak them a little bit to make them suspend, and it stays in the strike zone, and you can figure out how to get the fish to react to it. If you're going to throw a bait like a swim bait or something like that, yes, that's great a lot of times too if the fish are in a feeding mood, but you can't keep it right in front of its face for very long because it's going to sink to the bottom or pendulum back to you or whatever. So that jerk bait's just a bait that will stay right in front of that fish's face, and you can change your cadence. You can change all kinds of different things to make that fish react.
Have you messed with that free rig at all? I know Massa in the latest Elite Series, he top 10, and that's been kind of like a bait that has been gaining momentum for the last year. I really don't know much about it. We had Ken Duke on yesterday. We were talking about the genesis of baits and how they become popular, whether it's through tournament wins or just like a slow burn where all of a sudden it's just in the populace. But is that a deal that you've messed around with or know anything about that free rig?
I've never even heard of it, so I guess the short answer would be a no to that one.
Okay, well, I don't feel as bad then, because I felt like everyone was, well, how do you not know? It's like a mix between like a split shot, a Carolina rig, and a Texas rig, where it's like a cylinder. It's like a almost like one of those long drop shot weights, but it's got a barrel swivel on it, and you just run it up against a Texas rig. So it's like an unpegged Texas rig, but with a long cylindrical weight, and then you drag it and fish it like a Carolina rig. Seems to be gaining a lot of momentum, and a lot of guys have been catching some fish in tournaments on it. So I was just curious if that was something you messed with at all, or obviously not.
No, it's not. But anything like that, that just goes back to just letting the fish see something a little bit different. It can be the same baits, it just rigged different ways. And that's, I'm sure we'll start hearing a lot more about it now.
Yeah, that's absolutely crazy. I want to run through some of your stats because at the end of last year, we were talking about what I would say the most underrated professional anglers. Now, you don't fall into this category, I don't think, anymore. After all your wins, Angler of the Years, you've won on all these divisions. But we were having this right before this happened. I want to run through some of your Angler of the Year stats, and it's hard to kind of put these together because if you don't go and look at multiple different statistics, you don't get a really good picture of this. But starting in 2016, these are your finishes in the Angler of the Year. So the FLW Tour in 18, you were 8th, 11th in 17, 14th in 18. Then you went to the BPT, 5th in 2019, 11th in 2020, 4th on the BPT in the Angler of the Year in 2021, and then obviously 1st in the Angler of the Year on MLF in 2021, and you're leading it this year. What do you attribute that type of consistency to? Are you a catch a limit type of guy to where you really don't miss? Because you can't miss when you have finishes that are this consistent throughout the entire year over the course of a 5 or 6 year span.
Yeah, in the 5-fish deal, I always focus on getting a limit. I like to find a place where I can go catch 5 quick and then start doing a little bit different things. But it's just, I think a lot of it is I don't go try to fish somebody else's way. I've got a few techniques in each kind of situation that I like. I like a drop shot. I like a wacky worm. I like throwing chatterbaits, swim jigs. Like when we go to Florida, that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to go punch. I'm not going to go do that type of stuff. And I just fish my way and figure out what area of the lake or what area of the fishery that we're on, I can go do that and just fish confidently. If I'm going to go try and do what something might be by the book somewhere else that I'm not confident in, I feel like I'm just wasting my time. So if I can make the more casts I can make with confidence and baits and techniques that I have that confidence in, I feel like the better my chances are of doing well.
Awesome. We were talking with BPT Pro Michael Neal about the run that he's been on for the last 5 or 6 months. We're going to take a break, run some ads, but when we come back, I want to get into the 2011 season. This was before the majority of people across the world had heard of Michael Neal, but he had a heck of a year in 2011. I want to get into whether or not that kind of served as a catalyst for a career. I think you were what, in your early 20s back in 2011, or were you still a teenager then?
I was 19.
19 years old. So we're going to get back into the 2011 season of Michael Neal, how it kind of molded him into the top tier angler that he is today. It's Wednesday on BTO. We'll be back after these messages.
The Ultimate Fishing System by Lowrance. Your choice of powerful fish finding tools, all connected. From sonar and trolling motor to navigation and networking. To fit the way you fish. All with touchscreen control from HDS Live, the heart of your system. Find more, see more, catch more with the Ultimate Fishing System by Lowrance. Upgrade to the Ultimate Fishing System and get up to $1,000 cash back.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
I've made my living on the water for over 20 years.
For 14 years.
For over 23 years.
I've worn a bunch of different clothing brands over the years.
Some companies big.
And some companies small.
All of them said they were making clothing for us. But none of them knew us.
None of them were us.
Except for one.
Except for one.
Except one.
AFCO.
AFCO.
AFCO. AFCO.
Fishing isn't part of us. It is us.
The KVD 100 jerkbait. 15 different colors. A perfect combination of roll, wiggle, and flash. Increased castability. 3D eyes. Premium black nickel hooks. KVD. Tie one on. Striking lures.
Elite Series Pro Daryl Gleason here. My Pro Guide batteries keep me going on those long tournament days and long practice days. Always plenty of juice, never fail. The best part about Pro Guide batteries, it's the people behind the company. They have over 40 years experience in the battery business, keeping all of us fishermen out on the water longer, catching more fish. Check them out at ProGuideBatteries.com.
What's up, Bass Talk Live fans? Brandon Polnick here. And ever since I won a couple Bassmaster Elite Series events on X-Zone Lures, I've been getting a bunch of questions of what makes them so special and different. And really, the truth is, it's in the details. The little details, things like no cheap fillers in their plastic. That gives you more lifelike action, more realistic and vibrant colors. But don't just take my word for it. Go to www.xzonelures.com and check them out for yourself.
So, you're looking to buy fishing electronics, huh? Are you also looking for true experts to help guide you through it? Well, at the Bass Tank, you've come to the right place. We are live forward-facing sonar pioneers with thousands of hours spent learning through winning trophies, cashing checks, and just having fun. Whatever brand you need, we have it. We offer free shipping, and we have 2 financing options available. Our experts are here to help you. Call us today or visit thebasstank.com.
The new Android series is the peak of the Denali lineup and offers the ultimate Denali experience. The Android series features 36-ton multi-directional graphite combined with interlock blank technology for added strength. Each rod is outfitted with Royal titanium guides that will not fail. The blank is fitted into an easy-touch, soft-feel EVA foam grip with exposed blank reel seat. This all allows the Android to transmit every movement of your bait and even the most subtle bites. The Android series is the finest rod Denali has ever made and offers an angler the ultimate fishing experience with a limited lifetime warranty. See the full lineup of Android rods at denalirods.com.
Welcome back to BTL on a Wednesday. Talking with the guy that you just heard from in the last Denali ad. You do a lot of like research, development, business side of the stuff, don't you, Michael?
Yeah, quite a bit. Having a store there at home, Dayton Boat Dock for the last 10 years, I kind of get both sides of it, from the marketing aspect of a business as well as the professional fishing side.
You enjoy that aspect of it? Or is it a means to an end?
No, I mean, I wish I had more time to spend at home actually in the store and just constantly stay on top of the trends more than I'm able to now fishing both tours. But, I mean, it keeps you in tune. It keeps you seeing the latest trends. It helps you understand what the cycles of fishing are. I mean, as far as seeing what types of baits everybody's buying, how they're rigging stuff up. And it kind of gives you some unique insights that you might not have even thought of before sometimes.
So, like, if I go to the Dayton Boat Dock and you're in town, like, there's Michael Neal, Angler of the Year, just like working in the store?
Yeah, a lot of times. I mean, I've still got trying to add new products or trying to rearrange what limited space I've got, trying to cram some more stuff in there.
Good stuff. Before the break, I wanted to kind of tease a little bit about the 2011 season with Michael Neal. And like I said, I'm a big stats guy. And it's amazing how many of these top tier anglers, you can go back, you can look at 1 or 2 years where some really crazy stuff happened, some really positive things happened on the water. And it's like these top tier anglers were able to take that year, and instead of looking back on it for the rest of their lives going, man, that was a great year, man, I had some great stuff happen, they use it as a catalyst. They use it as a springboard. They used it to propel themselves on to bigger and better things in their career. And with 3 BFL wins as a 19-year-old, a top 5 in the regional, and an appearance in the All-American, would you consider that was kind of the springboard to your career moving forward, Michael?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you said, 1 win on Chickamauga, 2 on Gunnersville. That was what really solidified that I wanted to try and make a career out of fishing. And I wasn't sure how I was going to do at it because, I mean, I just had limited regional experience at that point because that was my first year in college. But branched out to the FLW Tour the next year, starting in 2012, and never looked back.
What do you remember about those wins? Do you feel were you, hey, I know what's going on, I'm expecting to do well, or you win one and then another, and were you like, holy cow, like I'm fishing against some really good, I mean that choo-choo division, those divisions down there, a lot of good anglers in those divisions, and you just like ran through them?
It was one of those, like each tournament I can look back and tell you just something weird that happened or something that wasn't supposed to happen. Like the one in May, it was a shad spawn deal, and I actually caught them all within the first hour in like 20 feet of water, and boat flipped a 6-pounder on 15-pound line. Like that's not supposed to happen. The one in Chickamauga in June, the current was actually going upstream. It was hitting the dam and bouncing off because the lake was backfilling or doing something weird. And I mean, every tournament like that, and all year last year was the same way. It's just I hate to using the phrase in the zone because you can't fully understand everything that's going on. I don't think it's just like there's another voice in your head telling you what to do, and it's almost always right.
It's really interesting that you bring that up because I have an article that's on the MLF website after you won the Angler of the Year, and I want to read a little section of it and then get your thoughts on it. And it has to do with luck. And Mark Jeffries was a big proponent. Oh, luck. And for years I said, man, there's zero luck. And you look at, preparation meets opportunity and where luck. But here's the quote from the article. Neal said he's gotten lucky all year. with one good call after another, making the season come together. When you do it all year long, it stops being luck at some point, but he's still grateful for things that have gone right. There's something from every single tournament that I can look at and say, wow, that was lucky. Either catching a big one or catching a couple off a place or whatever, Neal said. And then you go through to talk about all these circumstances. What is your definition of good decision-making versus luck? I'm trying to figure this out in my own fishing, and I think a bunch of other people are, but it seems like there's certain guys who, quote, get lucky for 50 years.
Yeah, Thrift's another one that he says he gets lucky a lot too. But that's when I say get lucky, it's not that I just do something random that I have no confidence in doing and catching one, but it's that I made a right decision and the outcome was maybe, just one fish or two fish, very small, but they were very critical. And by lucky, I'm just saying that it wasn't necessarily doing exactly what I was supposed to do or what I went out and intended to do, but it just happened to work out the right way.
So are you a believer in true luck, like slot machine style luck, or do you think there's an element of skill in everything that happens on the water?
Some of it's total luck. If you make a bad cast and wind up catching a big one, or like one fish, I'll tell you that I consider 100% luck was at St. Lawrence last year. That was probably the fish that locked up the angler of the year. I'd caught some fish off a rock pile and the current was going, and I just hit my trolling motor like in the direction of the next rock pile I wanted to go, got down on the bottom of the boat, retied, stood up, and my trolling motor had actually taken me a different course than I thought. I made one pitch out the front of the boat just to get my bait in the water and catch like a 5-pounder. There was no skill in me going that direction. That was just one of those totally meant to be lucky moments.
But you don't consider the fact that you had your setup right, that you were in that area, that you decided to make that cast even though you weren't anticipating to be there. You don't consider all of that coming together to kind of nullify the luck, because you still had to make a lot of decisions even though you weren't intending to make that cast to end up in that situation, therefore nullifying the luck factor in it.
Having the right bait, having the right setup, having the right rod, the right equipment to do all that, yes, that was all a decision, but exactly where I was, that just happened by totally randomness, because I didn't even, I was trying to go a totally different direction and my boat just went that way. So I think, I see where you're coming from, that there is a certain factor of being prepared, but that the actual fish being there and making that exact cast, that was luck.
So on the flip side then, do you think there are anglers who are just burdened with bad luck? You think there are unlucky anglers who are like, man, this is just bad stuff? Or do you think that anglers manifest their own destiny?
I think a lot of it is mental when it comes to that. You can have a bad day. You can lose fish. For instance, like when I lost that first bite I had at Rayburn the final day, it was like a 6-pounder and it comes off. I could have taken that two ways. Either, man, this is going to be a terrible day and this is just not my day, kind of the unlucky side, or I could say, hey, I know this is what I need to do. I got a good bite, 5 more, and I win the tournament. And that was the side I chose to take for that day.
Pretty level-headed on the water. I'm seeing a trend now of anglers. There's obviously you have the Iconellis and things, but there's a lot of these like younger, late 20s to mid 30s guys who are like just stone cold on the water, almost golf-like, as far as their never too high and never too low. Do you think that's a really important trait in being able to deal with the mental peaks and valleys?
To me, it is. And that's just how I've always been. That's just my personality in all aspects of life. I could be, completely excited on top of the world and nobody would know the difference just between a normal day as far as my demeanor. But it's all good when you're having good days, no matter what your mental state is as far as being able to cope with things and being level-headed. But when you have those bad times, that's when the bad times tend to get worse if you don't have that ability to be level-headed.
Hey, on that drop shot, are you throwing that 7.4 medium heavy, the multi-spin on the drop shot, or what's your drop shot rod?
Offshore like that, I actually it's a covert, a Denali covert that they don't make anymore, but they're coming back out with it. It's a 7'6". I believe it's medium. It might be a medium light, but I'm pretty sure it's a medium. And that's anytime I'm offshore throwing a drop shot, light line, light wire hooks, that's my go-to. The 7.4 I will throw like on a shaky head or something with a little bit bigger hook, but that covert that's going to come back out, that's by far my go-to.
Just a little bit more forgiving as far as fighting the fish closer to the boat, or?
Yeah, and most of the time I use really light line. Like at Rayburn, I was actually using 10-pound sunline shooter actually for my leader, but the water was pretty dingy. But
Okay.
Like when we go up north, especially, I'll go down to 7, and a lot of times I use either 7 or 8 on my drop shot, and I just like that real parabolic bend in the rod that is forgiving.
And that's the same one that you use up north for the smallmouth?
Yep, that's the same one. Anytime I'm offshore throwing a drop shot, that's what I do. The only time I change is like going down the bank, I throw the 7-foot medium N3 rod, but the rest of the time it's all at 7.6.
All right. What do you think your hook to land ratio should be on a drop shot? I'm just curious on that. I throw the thing all the time. Sometimes I'll go 50 fish and not lose one, and other times it seems like everyone pulls off. But as a general rule, you get 50 bites on a drop shot, regardless of condition, species, whatever. What percentage of those fish should you be landing?
At least 40, at the very minimum 40.
So 80% of them.
Yeah, I would actually say closer to 9 out of 10.
Okay.
So maybe 45. But that's me. A lot of guys use different hooks, different setups. I always use a longer hook, like the Gamakatsu light wire with a 10 keeper, the 1/0. I never use just a short shank traditional drop shot hook, and I think that really helps out my landing ratio. That's got the nano coat, that smooth, super smooth technology behind it, stays sharper, penetrates better, and I just feel like that shank has a lot to do with, and the same thing with the wacky worm. I like a worm hook that's got a shank on it. I think that makes a big difference in your landing ratio.
Zero concern about flexing that hook out.
No, and that's another thing for that light rod. I don't have to worry about flexing the hook out. I don't have to worry about putting too much pressure on a hook set. I don't have to worry about my drag all that much or trying to back reel, because if I tried to back reel, that would be an absolute disaster. So I like a forgiving rod that helps me get away with a little bit more.
All right, I wanted to talk about fork just a little bit with you before I let you get on your way. Headed down to the second stop of the BPT on the season, kicking off. Lake Fork, we know what it's capable of. Everybody knows what it's capable of. What is it like mentally preparing for an event where you know that it has the potential for a massive slugfest?
I mean, it's got the potential, but you've also got to keep in mind that you can only control what you've got. And I mean, you're not fishing against, you're not going out there with a mentality that, man, I've got to catch, 30 pounds a day or whatever after practice you think that cut weight's going to be. You've just got to go out there and stay in control of your situation. And don't get too far ahead of yourself trying to make everything, even though you're on one of the top 10 fisheries in the country of all time, for sure, you can't get too far ahead and get too many preconceived notions.
You're going to take 100 pounds to win this thing in the final round?
It could. I mean, that wouldn't surprise me. Or to take, 40 pounds wouldn't surprise me. They've had a lot of cold fronts. There's another one fixing to come through with some storms today that I think I'm going to hit. And then the lows are going to be like in the mid-20s for the next 2 or 3 nights. And temperature is going to fall all day tomorrow while we're out there. So it's not going to be good conditions. The water's low. You're not going to be able to move around a lot. And it's going to be fairly treacherous. But just to go out there and get a good idea in practice and figure out where the bait is, how you think the fish are setting up, and just seeing what you see and then being able to expand on that in the tournament, that's going to be a pretty big deal.
That's good stuff. Man, I greatly appreciate it. I know you're driving through Alabama. I just want to thank you for being a part of BTL on a Wednesday. Safe travels, and go break your own personal record. You had 168 pounds, 11 ounces on the final day at St. Clair. Go break that with green ones this time on fork.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a whirl. We'll see.
All right. Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.
That was BPT Pro Michael Neal on his way to the second stop of the season down in Texas. A lot of interesting stuff there, man. I could talk for hours about that mental stuff, the luck versus preparation, and you get to the guys at the top of the game, and it's interesting. Everyone has a little bit of different tweak on it, on how they perceive it, but there's some general themes, some general thought process that seem to run through the mind of all the guys who are the best at this game, some of the best to have ever done it. Hey, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, kind of a last-minute guest here, but he's always good for it. The man is flexible. I don't know physically flexible, but schedule-wise, always flexible to jump on the show. And that is JMFW. James Watson will come to talk a little bit about the Team USA Bass. USA Bass and what's going on with that. The red, white, and blue with a jumping largemouth bass. Kind of thought it was very fitting with the Olympics wrapping up this weekend. We'll be back with James Watson. It's BTL on a Wednesday.
Combining one of the most popular hook styles with Gamakatsu's beefier Superline offering, the Gamakatsu Superline Offset Round Bend delivers the strength necessary to target big fish in heavy cover. Well suited for braided line and heavier fluorocarbon, the Gamakatsu Superline Offset Round Bend is built using stronger Superline wire that allows anglers to easily fish a finesse worm around heavy cover. The round bend offers a larger bite area, perfect for any worm presentation, while increasing your hookup ratios. The newly enhanced Z-bend holds your plastics on the hook longer, reducing the number of pull-offs and reducing damage to plastics. Available in 2/0, 3/0, 4/0, and 5/0, this is the most durable worm hook, designed for heavier lines that hold your bait on longer.
Preparation is key to success. And that preparation starts well before you ever hit the water. You're only as strong as your connection to the fish, and your line is that critical connection. Confidence in your line every minute of every day on the water is a necessity, and failure, it's not an option. Sunline makes the fluorocarbon, nylon, and braided lines to give you the strength to guarantee your confidence.
Vibrating jigs are a great choice for any time of year, and the Kamikaze Swim-On is a perfect match for any vibrating jig. Two sizes and the unique tail design gives it a bait fish profile and a great swimming action for realism. There are 17 colors. See them all at bigbitebaits.com.
The Spro Little John crankbait has been around for almost 15 years, and it is one of my go-to crankbaits whenever I need a fish in the boat, so you can never have enough new colors. That's why Spro's coming out with a handful of new colors, including Pearl Shad, which has this bleached out white look, but it's got this pearlescent, really, really pretty. We've got Copper Shad, which looks amazing in the water. It's got that purple flake on the back, really, really pops in the water. And then if you want some real pop, we've got Sparkle Shad, nothing but sparkles all over this thing. And then last but not least, we've got the matte Sexy Shad, just a really different looking color for a crankbait. So you want to give them a little different look, that matte Sexy Shad is definitely the one to go with. All these colors are available in the original Little John and the MD.
Welcome back to BTL on a Wednesday. Big thanks to Michael Neal for giving us some of his thoughts, recapping his win earlier this year. We're going to go to another man who's going to talk a little bit about Team USA Bassett, and that is none other than James Watson. James, thanks for joining me. Last minute, coming through in the clutch. Said you had a little conference call from 8:30 to 9, but you'd be glad to come on and talk USA Bassett after that. What's going on, man?
Always. Thanks, Matt. Thanks for having me on. Hey, first, I want to say congratulations to Bradley Roy on his recent victory and my buddy John Cruz in his recent victory.
Heck yeah. 2 W's. And the guy we had on before this, Michael Neal, he's not bad himself either.
Congratulations to Michael Neal. Good dude.
I mean, you've been doing this a long time. You've made top 10s. You've got wins. You've caught big bags of fish. But even as a professional angler, does it still impress you sometimes when you see like just how consistent a guy like a Michael Neal or a Jacob Wheeler or Jordan Lee is? Does it make you shake your head or does it make you angry?
It makes me shake my head. I don't get angry about it. I get angry about my poor of all the people on the league, and everybody that watches bass fishing knows that I could throw out some real stingers out there. Last week was no different.
Well, it happens to everyone.
Yeah.
So my question is, the Olympics are going on, James, and I was sitting here getting ready this morning, and I said, dude, USA has a Team Bass. I remember we've covered it before. We've talked about it. They've won medals. We've seen them catching giant fish, and Scott Martin's covered it in the website. You can buy Team USA bass and gear. And I'm going through the list. I'm like, who could I get on to see just a recap on what's going on? I just want to be up to date on Team USA Bassin. And you're on that team, so I figured you would be a great guest to talk a little bit about Team USA Bassin. So what do we got going on with that?
Well, we got the World Championships been postponed the last 2 years due to COVID and our inability to host the event and get other countries to fly into the United States. We're going to be at Lake Murray, South Carolina in November. It's I forget the exact week, but it's the same week that there's I do know this. There's a BF regional the same week on Grand Lake. So I can't.
October 16th through 22nd.
Yes. Yep.
On Lake Murray.
Lake Murray. This will be the third year that our teams competed. We did 17 in South Africa, bringing home a silver medal on the Vol River. 2018, we brought home the gold medal from Mexico, beating everybody. And this year, Lake Murray, South Carolina. This is kind of the guys that got invited and asked to come. There was numerous other anglers asked to come that did not take their invitation to come fish. And to be honest with you, we had to throw a little bit of our own money to put this team together as far as like our flight to South Africa, stuff like that. So the committee, the FitEps is a committee, I think I'm saying that right, that hosts other World Championship fishing competitions like fly fishing and carp fishing and all these other things. And John Knight's one of our team leaders, our captains in the civilian side of things, and Charlie Evans helped put the team together. And so a lot of us said, yeah, we'll take that risk. We'll do that. And FitEps is trying to make this an actual Olympic sport. And without the cooperation with other countries, this can't be done. So we're checking all the blocks that's necessary to make bass fishing an Olympic sport with no guarantee that will ever become an Olympic sport. And without getting too deep into the weeds, but a lot of people say, they'll never make it an Olympic sport. Well, they made curling an Olympic sport, so why can't they make bass fishing an Olympic sport?
Give it a percentage chance, James. Like in like, I don't know, what's a reasonable timeline? Every 4 years, well, it'll obviously be the Summer Olympics.
Yeah.
So in 12 years, what is a percentage chance that we're rooting Team USA on in the Olympics? Like 1%? I mean, is it one of those? So you're saying there's a chance deal, or is it like a 20%?
I think it's a 25% that it happens.
Really?
75% it doesn't.
Yeah. I mean, I'd take that 1 in 4 chance that in 3 Olympics, 3 Summer Olympics from now, we're watching bass fishing.
Yeah. We hope to check the block and get approval well in advance of there, but but again, I give it a 25%. I won't even give it a 50-50. That
lots of red tape.
Lots of red tape. Again, the committee, the FitEps fishing organization that is checking all the blocks that's required, and even we check every single block plus 2 extra bonus blocks. There's no guarantee that they will get this into the Olympics. So I do know this at South Carolina, the South African team that is probably the most aggressive and one of the better fishing teams that we fish against. They have already been to Lake Murray for a week or two and intend on coming this summer for another one, and then plan to come for the event itself. I think they're making 3 trips to the United States to fish on Lake Murray. So they're gunning for us big time.
How many countries compete in this? I would assume, South Africa, Mexico, Canada, Japan. Yeah. I mean, there's got to be a handful of countries that can give the U.S. a run for their money.
Oh, yeah. Costa Rica, South Korea, Zimbabwe, Germany, Russia, just to name a few. There's quite a bit. I think there's over 20 national teams that come in to fish this deal.
Why is this not like a household thing, James? Why is it? And like I said, I know when it's going on and people follow it, but I mean, this should be like a classic or a Red Crest or a Pro Circuit championship when you get together for all these countries. What do you think's holding it back from being a big mainstream rah-rah USA type deal?
Money and support. Again, how is it that the South African team can come to the United States on 2 or 3? I think it's going to be 3 occasions this year. You know how expensive it was to fly to South Africa, and back in 2017, it was $4,000 per angler. And I think it's all about money. And, I believe that the U.S. team is competing against Bass and competing against MLF and the National Pro Fishing League, and they're all, everybody. The longer I'm in this business, the more deeper you get into it. We're all fighting for the same $100 bill that company might be. I would say 100. It could be hundreds of thousands of dollars that, for example, Mercury might put towards fishing, tournament fishing. If Mercury's throwing $1 million into tournament fishing, well, they might give $500,000 to MLF and $500,000 to Bassmaster. Well, Bassmasters wants MLF's $500,000, and MLF wants Bassmaster's $500,000. Team USA, they're not aggressively pursuing, or if they are, it's not being accomplished, of getting funded to make it a big deal. To us, to the anglers that are fishing, it's another event, and you only realize how big a deal it is when you see it in the eyes of all these other people from other countries that come up to take pictures with Scott Martin and Fred and David Fritz and I, and Mark Rose, just to name a few, Canterbury. They all come up. There's hardly a team that doesn't come up and recognize us. And so we really feel how big it is when we're actually competing against these guys, because they all, and I'm not saying this boastfully or bragging about it, but they all.
Well, it's like hockey in Canada.
Yeah, they all follow us. So, but we don't have the funding. So I'll be curious if I have to come out of pocket to go to South Carolina to Lake Murray, and again, here's South Africa making 3 trips over here. That's how serious they are.
Who's their guy? Is that the Gary Juice? What's this? The South Africa guy that always he's made the classic a bunch of times.
I think he was on. I think he fished in 17. Joust.
Okay.
I know the Craig from the Zimbabwe team. I think Craig's on the Zimbabwe team. I get to know a few of those guys, some of my buddies from Canada. But it's funny how those countries come up with the money to fish this event. And here we are, the biggest bass fishermen in the sport, and we can't come up with $15. So it's just not taken seriously enough, in my opinion. We appreciate you following it and giving us some love like this, but we need the Walmart or Costco of the world to step up and say, this is Team USA. bass, and we're going to make sure our team members, can fly 16 hours round trip, maybe first class, so they can actually lay down on the plane instead of all humped up like a monkey humping a football for 16 hours, to put it bluntly.
That's good. They're sold out of the USA Team Bass caps, though.
Imagine that. So,
well, it's a cool hat. It's got the stars in the tail, and then the red stripes, the jump at bass. It says USA in red, and then bass. Like, I would sport that hat. Like, I can't do the flat bill worldwide hat because I look like a 12-year-old wearing a flat brim.
It's because you don't have a fat face like me.
I have a tiny head.
Yes, you do. You do. But
So,
no, I don't know. I don't know what can happen. It's got to be sold by people in charge to really get it out there. And FLW at the time had supported us.
Mm-hmm.
MLF may be supporting this event as far as like the weigh-in trailer or something. We might have one of the MLF Toyota or Tackle Warehouse trailer. I don't know what, but I know Kathy Fennell and them had in the past supported us and give us a little bit of love. But I tell you what, besides the fishing part of it, the most exciting thing and the most prideful thing about the whole event is when they call your country up to the front at the pre-tournament meeting and they play your national anthem. That is the biggest, gives me cold chills. I still, to this day, almost 50 years old, get completely cold chills every time I hear the national anthem. Every time. So
that's good stuff. Well, I'm all about getting behind this thing.
Yeah.
KMFW. I think it's a cool deal. I did follow it. Obviously, Scott, with the videos that Scott Martin did, was that last year or 2 years ago? Maybe it was longer than that when they did.
It was 2018.
Good Lord, time flies.
I know. And we shot a little show with Scott Martin the day after we got the gold medals.
And smashed him. Didn't you do like 50 pounds or something?
Oh, yeah. It was crazy. Terry Bolton caught his personal best. It was like a 10-pounder. Scott Martin caught his personal best. It was a 12-2 or 12-12, something like that. I actually lipped it. It was funny. Scott's like, I got him. He saw it on Panoptics, and it comes up and jumps, and he goes, oh my gosh, Scott Martin style, and he's having a good mini stroke, and he's he's hollering at me. He's like, get it, and it's like 6 feet out there, and I'm like, you're gonna have to get him a little bit closer, Scott, so that I can grab that sucker. And I did, and it was just a phenomenal place. Actually, Fred is the one, between Fred and David Fritz, they're the ones that figured out how to really attack that lake and crush them on a crankbait.
Standing timber, wasn't it?
It with long points. It had some scattered timber on it, and Fred and I had 5 that weighed 35 the first day. All I did was run the dip net. It's funny, we went over there with all these giant bass, and the biggest one I caught the whole week I was there is like a 412. And then we go over to South Africa, and I catch 2 6-pounders on the Ball River, which is unheard of. So it's funny how bass fishing works.
Very nice. If you guys want some more info on this, like I said, I don't really know much about this. Like I said, I don't think many people do know much about it. They see it on the social media when it happens, it goes. But you can go to usabass.org.
Yep. And just follow team members. We'll start hyping it up here and there. If anybody's out there and wants to support it, get a hold of the link that Matt told you, and we always need more support.
Favorite Olympic sport, James?
Dude, can you imagine if this does go Olympic?
It would be cool. But what is your current favorite Olympic sport? Like, if you're watching, are you going with the 2-man bobsled, or what are you going with? Figure skating?
Currently, I'm not going with any of them because I don't think we should be in China doing the Olympics, but I don't want to take away from the athletes that are there and all the hard work that they put in their lives to get there. It's just, I don't want to get too political about the whole rigmarole, but
fair enough.
Olympic sport I want is bass fishing. That's pretty much the only sport I watch anyway. I care less about the Super Bowl or LeBron James and his crap, and I really don't care about any other sport except bass fishing.
Well, there you go. You heard it from the man himself.
Yeah.
JMFW. Well, thank you for jumping on last minute. I know you probably have to. Are you already down in Texas, or are you still in Missouri? Or
I'm at Sprague's barn dominium here at Lake Fork. Freddie's going to get in here in a little bit. Coulter's going to be here in a little bit. I'm going to go over to Palestine. Is it Palestine or Palestine?
Dude, I'm the worst at pronouncing names. I'm like John Soka. I mispronounced his last name for 11 years since I've known him. I just got it right this year.
And
I still don't know. Over at MLF, your media director. I've known Joe for since he started in 2012. I don't know whether it's Joe Opiger or Joe Opager. I'm horrible at it.
Opinger, yeah.
I'm horrible at it. I had who did I have? Oh, I was calling him Matt Stefan, and it's Matt Steffen.
Yeah.
I'm bad at this stuff, and this is what I do.
Well, tell those people not to have weird names.
Yeah. So I'm gonna just go with Lake Palestine.
Okay.
Palestine.
I'm calling Palestine.
The question here is whether it's a Palestine or a long E. Palestine or Palestine? Palestine. I'm going with Palestine.
You've already thought of it more than the effort than I put into it. But that's where I'm going today. I'm going to go drive around because we have heavy hitters coming up in April there.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to just use a little bit of time, go over there for 4 or 5 hours, drive around, get acclimated to the lake, and not.
Is this heavy hitters from last year that qualified for this year?
Yes.
Okay. Are you guys doing heavy hitters again this year?
Yes. Yeah.
So like Randy Howell's in the catbird seat right now.
Absolutely. And I think the 30 cut is like a 4.7 right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in there with a big old whopping 1.9.
Yeah. We need to do some damage this week at Fork, James. Because here's the deal: if you catch let's say you catch an 11 at Fork, because it's total weight, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So it totally averages out. That's like dual 6s.
Yeah. You need about a heavy 4 or 5 pound average throughout the year to make.
Oh, you'd be in good shape.
Yeah. Yeah. So I got to make up some ground in this one. Hopefully I can catch them.
How many 10s this week throughout? I mean, Group A, Group B, semifinals, finals, everything. How many 10s do we see over the gunnel?
4. I think we'll see a 10 every day.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know.
That's good stuff.
I don't know how, but I look at Fork a little different because it's going to be low. I've never been here this early in the year. Last time we were here, I just missed the top 10 cut. They had come up, started bedding really hard the last day of practice. And before that, I'd been here for a TTBC, maybe 2 of them.
Dude, I just had Mercer on a couple weeks ago, and we loved the TTBC. Now, granted, we both got paid there because we worked at it, so we had fun. But dude, that event was killer. I loved that thing. It was the best deal going.
I know it was so much fun, and I guess now one of the Bass Elites has really taken over that event, hasn't it?
Yeah, now it's like the Texas Fest, still benefiting Texas Parks and Wildlife. But that was back when we had the 3 tours, and they took the top 15 from the. I know you fished the PAA back then, and the PAA, FLW, and Elite Series. End of the year, you come off stage. Remember, they had the big barrels of ice cold beer in the background. You got to ride through in a tundra if you had a fish over 10. Then you came straight off stage, and you went right to the giant VIP tent to listen to top-notch country acts and have a great. I mean, dude, I watched Tommy Biffle dance at a TTBC.
Dude,
he was dancing.
That was a great tournament. It was to watch Tommy Biffle dance is worth it. A price of admission alone. I remember at one of those, Tommy wore his jersey like everywhere he went, like he should as a legend in the sport he is. I remember that I autographed one of his jerseys, and the B on Biffle on the back of his jersey, I put in there worldwide. And then I saw him at like the Classic a few weeks, or was it ICAST? one or the other. And he had that jersey on. And I just started chuckling.
He never noticed it. Never looked at the B on the back. So you were riding with Tommy Biffle.
Yeah. And I'm like,
oh, that's a great story.
Man, can you not get you a new jersey every once in a while? What are you talking about? And he goes, watch it. I'm like, and he got his knife out and of course wants to
threaten to cut you.
Threatening to cut me. So
vintage Biffle.
Oh, Biffle.
Well, enjoy Lake Palestine and then go get your mitts on a double digit.
Yes, gonna do it. This week's gonna be fun.
All right. You're the man, JMFW. Thanks for jumping on.
Thanks, Matt. See you guys.
See ya. All right, that was James Worldwide Watson talking about that Team USA Bass. And like I said, it's a really good concept. I really like it. I like the players that are some of the players that are behind it. But I just don't know a bunch about it. Don't know as much as I should. And it is the 2022 Black Bass World Championship hosted in the USA on Lake Murray this October. So kind of something to keep your eye on as we get closer, but I thought very fitting with the Olympics going on tomorrow. We have a great show. It is day 4 with Uncle Frank, and it is going to be a call-in show. Well, let me see what he actually texted me. He texted me this morning about it, and I don't want to get it wrong. He said, let's do a call-in Q&A show Thursday. I responded with okay. So it is a call-in Q&A show with Frank Scalish tomorrow on BTL to wrap up the middle of February. Holy cow, this week is flying by. And also tomorrow morning, I'll be very anxious to see how the Elite Series guys do on the Harris chain. Want to give a big thanks to Michael Neal and James Watson for joining us. Next week, I've got a great show lined up for Wednesday. Scott Palmer is going to be in studio from the Bass Tank talking about all things electronics and how they work. Like we had Matt Looney on for the batteries. He'll be in talking about like what you're actually looking at when you see 2D side imaging, down imaging, forward-facing sonar, all sorts of stuff. And then we're also going to have an update from the National Professional Fishing League, the TNPFL, which is kicking off next week, and they're having a media day on Wednesday. So we're gonna get an update on what's going on, and I'm gonna ask the question. I'm saying, what happened last year? What was going on with that type of thing? And we'll see what we get. But man, there's a lot of guys that are back. It seems like they were able to rebuild a lot of the momentum that they lost with the canceled championship at the end of last year, and I'm excited to see how that goes down here in a couple weeks. So that's all we got for BTL on February 16th, 2022. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.